resources in life: our time, our health, and our money. And when you're younger, you have an abundance of time and health, and you are more than happy to trade this away for money. But as you progress through your life, continuing to make this trade, your time and your health will start to become your most scarce resources. And there will become a point where continuing to work is actually costing you far more than retiring. As a financial advisor, people think that I spend most of my time berating my clients to save more money, but I actually spend far more time trying to convince them that they have already crossed this point and that they should retire. And maybe you are in this position too, which is why I want to show you 6 reasons why right now may be the perfect time for you to retire. Hello and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is James. I am a financial planner, and this is a place where you can learn to make smarter financial decisions. Let's get straight into reason number 1, time. We have already recognized that time may now be your most scarce resource, but I want to put that into perspective to help you appreciate just how precious that time is. And as we go through this, I want you to think about how you would apply this same process to your own life. These squares represent a 90-year human life. That's 90 winters, 90 summers. I'm currently 33 years old, and according to the Office of National Statistics, I've got a 50-50 chance of seeing another 52 summers. That's 52 more Champions League finals, 26 more Ashes tests, 13 more Rugby World Cups. Now, let's frame the time that I have left in terms of the things that I like to do. I typically read about 5 books a year. And even though right now it feels like I'll have the opportunity to read an endless amount of books in the future, at my current rate, I may only read another 300 books in my life, which means that of all the millions of books in print, I'm only ever going to get to find out the ending of 300 of them, whilst the rest will be lost to eternity. How about cycling? Every other year, I try to go on a cycling trip abroad with my mates to tackle a few hills and a few beers. I love it, and assuming that we can keep this up until we're 60, that will give us another 13 cycling trips together. When I think about all of the kilometers of climbing that this will involve, it seems like quite a lot, but once they're done, they're done. And it makes me realize just how precious each of these trips are. But what about relationships? I have some friends, best mates, that I only ever get to see once a year. Some of them live far away, whilst others live close, but somehow we just never seem to find the time to see each other. At this rate, I may only get to see them another 50 or so times. If that's for a couple of hours each time, I may only have 100 or so hours left with some of the people that I love more than anything in the world. But what really gets me is when I think of my parents. I'm lucky enough that both of my parents are still alive and they're fit and healthy, but they're in their late 60s and we only see each other 5 or so times a year for maybe 2 days at a time. That's 10 days a year. So how many more days do we have left together whilst both of them are still fit and healthy? I don't know, 50, maybe 60? Or if you view this from their perspective, the perspective of a parent, once your children have left home, it's likely that you will already have used up 90% of your in-person time with them. And for my parents, that may mean that we've only got 5% of that time left. Although it is super depressing to visualize your life like this, I would highly encourage you to do it because it helps you to identify the things that are important to you in life and how much time you are currently allocating to them. And if it disturbs you, great. Because it means that not only are you likely to relish those opportunities more, but you'll also recognize that you are totally in control of the time that you have left. And if you want to spend more time doing the things that you love with the people that you love, then do something about it instead of just plodding along, not realizing how much those extra years of work are really costing you. Reason number 2, interest rates. When you get to retirement and you start living off your assets, you're going to need to plan your cash flow much more carefully, which often means holding much larger amounts of cash and lower risk investments like bonds. When interest rates were rock bottom, this was not a particularly attractive prospect. But right now, interest rates are higher than they have been for 15 years. And as of filming, you can get 4% on an easy access cash account, 5.5% on fixed term deposits, and your annuity rates are the highest that they have been for a very long time. Of course, these rates need to be assessed against the backdrop of inflation, but the direction of travel is that inflation will fall faster than rates will. So really, now is as good a time as any to be thinking about retiring. But James, what about the risks of recession, inflation, and the threats of artificial intelligence? How can I feel confident retiring when the future seems so uncertain? Well, this brings me on to reason number 3. The future is uncertain. It always has been and always will be. When you read the news, it's easy to think that we are living through one of the most uncertain periods of history, with never before seen risks looming right around the corner. But I can tell you that every single person that has ever retired has thought exactly the same thing. Because we have a recency bias that causes us to feel like the events of today and the risks of tomorrow are much more significant than what anyone has ever experienced in the past. That's not to dismiss the risks of today, but even if we look back over the last 15 years, we can see that there has been plenty to worry about. We had the European debt crisis, the scaling back of QE, US government shutdowns, recessions, trade wars with China, Brexit, COVID. But all of these fears either came to nothing or were very short-lived. And if we look back over the last 100 years, there have been even greater crises. World wars, Cold Wars, the collapse of superpowers. But time and time again, we see that human ingenuity has overcome this uncertainty. And
I mean, you gotta do something, right? Retire, like he's saying, like, oh, you only have 13 bicycling trips remaining. Yeah, if you're not doing that, you're doing something else. Maybe you're fucking climbing, you know, with some other friends. Like, he's counting in, like, he's counting in subjective things. Whereas if you're not doing that, you're not doing anything at all. But you are always doing something, no matter if you're spending time with someone or if you're spending some time with someone else. So it's like a retard concept to think like that.